Colnago has launched a completely new bicycle, the V2-R. The V2-R is, unsurprisingly, a replacement for the V1-R, which when it first launched was pitched sort of as an aero bike, but since Colnago came out with the concept, which is actually an aero bike with lots of aero features, it's now kind of taken up the mantle of lightweight climbers, general purpose awesome bike. For once, a bike has been launched and it's not lighter than its predecessor. In fact, the V2-R claims the exact same frame weight of 835 grams as the V1-R. It would be pretty weird if it weren't stiffer than its predecessor, and you'll be pleased to know that it is 13% stiffer at the bottom bracket and 4% at the head tube. Pleasingly, Colnago haven't made any numerical claims about increases in comfort because, as you all know, there is no unit of comfort. The V2-R is Colnago's flagship monocoque frame. So there's the C60, which is the lugged carbon made in Italy, super exclusive premium one. And then there's the V2-R, which is also super exclusive and premium because it's a Colnago, but it's a monocoque frame made in Taiwan. Colnago have made lots of small refinements and changes to the frame, the most obvious of which is there's a nice tidy integrated seat clamp, and the whole seat cluster is very kind of organically curved in a way it wasn't on the old bike. The top tube, head tube junction has been redesigned too, and the cable routing is just like that of the concept, with the cables running through the top tube. The V2-R also gets the same bottom bracket as the C60, which is essentially Colnago's answer to all the problems that people have with press fits. What that means in practice is it's got sleeves that thread into the frames to take the press fit bottom bracket, and if that wears out, you can replace them. I went for a ride on the new V2-R from Colnago's own factory in Cambiago, which is just on the outskirts of Milan. That was about 65 kilometers, starting with quite a lot of Italian dual carriageway, but then actually doing a few hills to get a sense of how the bike felt on the climbs. Colnago set me up with a bike with full Super Record and Campag Bora wheels, pretty much the dream spec. It won't come as a surprise that the V2-R is very light, very stiff, very lively. It is everything you'd expect from a Colnago. Because this was a European bike launch, obviously they'd pumped up 23mm tyres to a zillion PSI, so it probably wasn't the best way to assess the comfort of the bike. In fact, over the bumps it was fairly firm, but there's no question that the V2-R is a really, really smooth riding bike. It's hard not to resort to cliche talking about its climbing performance, but it is genuinely really, really stiff. Stand on the pedals, it goes really well. The position isn't super duper aggressive, it's less racy than the C60, but it is a proper race bike. You could race it no problem, and it's quite easy to achieve a fairly aggressive position if you want to. On my particular test bike, despite that amazing spec, I actually couldn't get the gears to behave, which is quite disappointing when you're sort of riding the dream group set. I don't think it was anything specific to the bike though. There might have been a cabling issue on my test bike, but there were other people on the launch riding the exact same setup who didn't have the problem, so probably my hanger was slightly bent or there was some friction where there shouldn't have been. When I rode Colnago's Aero concept last year, I came away thinking this is a really amazing bike, but I'm not sure how special and Colnago it feels because it's very visually similar to a lot of other aero frames, and it's not made in Italy or anything, so in that sense you wonder if you're paying quite a lot for the Colnago name, but if you're getting something that's genuinely unique. I think with the V2-R it somehow felt a little bit more special, and that's because it simply looks more dramatic and different to other bikes. Although it's a monocoque frame that is mass produced in the Far East, it has something distinctly Colnago about it. That's obviously quite a subjective thing, but I think we can all agree that it's quite a good looking bike. Don't believe any of that stuff about special sauce with geometry, because there's nothing truly radical about a bike like the V2-R, but the fact is that it does handle very well. It's a really pleasant bike to descend on, and what's nice with this latest model is that they've gone with direct mount brakes, which are pretty damn stiff. And like other Colnago models, there's going to be a disc one too. On our test ride, I was faffing around with my GoPro and I suddenly realised that the group had completely left me behind, so I had to do a proper chase back on. Think kind of 2009 Fabien Cancellara in the Tour de France. It was exactly like that. Anyway, the bike felt really good doing it. It was genuinely satisfying to rail it around some corners, really throw it into a couple of hairpins. It's a bike that rewards hard riding, at least it feels like it does. There's nothing about the V2-R that really blew my mind, and it doesn't do anything that's really original per se. It's kind of what you'd expect as a natural progression from the previous model. In a weird way, it didn't make that strong an impression. It left me feeling like it was a bike that was really good at being a bike in the most simple analog way, but it doesn't have any of the crazy technology that we're used to seeing in a lot of endurance bikes now. So there's no fancy suspension front and rear, there's no special damping properties to the carbon other than the usual stuff that companies like Colnago do. Being a Colnago, this is not a cheap bike. Prices are near enough £3,000 for a frame set, and the test bike that I was riding would be about 9 grand. If you're looking for a straightforward, gimmick-free bike that's really well executed and that looks really nice, I think the V2-R is great. I do have a sense that the V2-R might be one of those bikes that reveals its greatness over the course of quite a lot more riding. So I'm genuinely excited to spend some more time with it when we get one in for review. Keep an eye on the channel, don't forget to subscribe, we'll bring you that review when we can.